Hi guys, it's Tidbit Tuesday. Wanted to talk to you today about leading by example. So here's 5 quick tips for you in the multifamily industry and just overall good tips for leadership. Number 1, get in there and do the dirty work. You want to, don't be afraid to get into the trenches. Don't be afraid to, if it's a weekend and you happen to be running the office by yourself and there's a clogged toilet, for example, don't be afraid to go into that resident's apartment and take care of it yourself. If things like that can just be easily done. Don't call your on-call maintenance guy to come in, from 30 miles away to do something that you could very easily take care of yourself. I know I've augured my share of toilets in my day, so don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to get out there and spend a day with your maintenance team figuring out how to install a ceiling fan. Once you get into that management role, don't be afraid to get out there onto the leasing floor and, show apartments and greet prospects. I always feel like that's the funnest part of the job anyway. But as managers, we tend to let all of that kind of go, and you get, so bogged down with all the details of your management every day that you forget, to do the fun stuff. So don't be afraid to get into the trenches. Number 2, do what you ask of other people. So if you're telling your team that they can't be surfing the internet and shopping online during the day, then you shouldn't be doing that either. If you expect your team to stay late, you should be coming in on the weekends yourself, and you should be staying until 6, 7 o'clock at night if you're asking your team members to do that same thing. If you're a big time waster, know that your team's noticing that. They're seeing what you're doing every day. And if you're spending a ton of time, kind of loafing around and chit-chatting with these people and talking to the vendors and talking to residents and whatnot, and you're not making the most of your time, your team members are going to see that, and they're going to do the exact same thing. So you want to make sure that you're always doing exactly what you've asked your team to do. On that same note, a lot of companies have a policy that you're not supposed to fraternize with the residents and your vendors. So if that's one of your company policies, but yet you're over there on the side doing things, that you're discouraging your team members from doing, just keep that in mind. You always want to be the example and set the example of what it's like to have good relationships with your residents and your vendors. Number 3, don't hide from conflict. A lot of times, you'll get whatever directives come down from your corporate office, and you might be tempted to hide information from your team members. Don't do that. The more your team members know, the more they're going to feel empowered, and the more they're going to feel like they're actually a part of something bigger. And if they know what's really going on within your property or your company, then they're going to feel like they've made a difference. And once you come out of that conflict or whatever, also conflict within your property, your team, it's going to happen. It's we're with our coworkers more than we are our family, so conflict's going to come up. But if you avoid it, and your team members are going to witness that you're avoiding those types of situations, and they're going to be tempted to then gossip over here and talk about it over here. And whereas if you just address the conflict head on, then they're going to respect you for that, and your team members are going to know, hey, I can't cause drama, because my manager is going to call me out on it. So, and you want to do it in a nice, friendly, professional, courteous way. You want to be firm but fair. That's always one of my favorite slogans. So number 4 is take responsibility for whatever happens at your property or at your office or whomever your team is that you're responsible for. If something goes wrong, it's your fault. You need to take responsibility. If your leasing consultant happened to have done something and you're getting called out by an owner, you take responsibility. You say, I'm so sorry this happened. I'll address it with the team. Perhaps I wasn't clear enough in my direction to do this, that, and the other. So, let me make sure that the team understands what they need to do, rather than saying, oh, well, that was so-and-so's fault. Or, well, I told her to do this and she did this instead. that's not going to really show your owner that you're taking responsibility for what's going on at your property. So, always have your team's back, and they will have yours in return. And finally, be the first. Be the first to volunteer for things at your company. Maybe there's some company initiatives that are rolling out, and or maybe a new software system, or maybe a new training system, or something along that line. Be the first to volunteer to put it at your property, because if you're taking the lead, you're then becoming a leader not only within your immediate property there, but a leader within your company. And that's a great way to advance your career with your company, is to show the leaders that you're willing to change, that you're willing to come up with new ideas, that you're willing to implement new things that might ultimately improve the operations at your property. So, just those are a couple of quick little 5 tips on how to lead by example. I'm sure there's many, many more, but we thought that these might be just fun little tidbits for you today on Tuesday. See you next week.